In the vast expanse of the galaxy, where civilizations rise and fall like cosmic tides, there exists a truth that most species learn too late. The most dangerous predator is often the one that appears defenseless. For 3,000 years, the Galactic Council has governed with an iron fist, their chambers protected by armies of armed guards, energy shields, and weapons that could vaporize entire city blocks. Yet when humanity requested to join their ranks, they brought something that made even the most battle-hardened species nervous. Guards who carried no weapons, wore no armor, and smiled like they knew a secret the rest of the galaxy didn't. The Council thought humans were fools. They were about to learn why Earth's greatest warriors had never needed weapons to be the most feared beings in the universe. Ambassador Elena Vasquez adjusted her formal diplomatic robes as the massive doors of the Galactic Council chambers began to open. Behind her stood two figures that had caused quite a stir among the Council's security forces, Marcus Chun and Sarah Thompson, her personal guards, dressed in simple black suits with their hands clasped behind their backs. No weapons, no armor, no visible protection of any kind. The chamber beyond was a marvel of galactic engineering. Crystalline walls stretched upward for nearly a kilometer, their surfaces displaying the banners of over 2,000 member species. The air hummed with energy shields and defensive systems that could repel everything from psychic attacks to antimatter bombardments. At the center, arranged in concentric circles, sat the representatives of the galaxy's most powerful civilizations. Remember, Elena whispered to her guards without turning around. We're here to observe first, negotiate second. Marcus nodded almost imperceptibly. At 6 feet tall with graying temples, he looked like any middle-aged human businessman. Sarah, shorter and seemingly more delicate, appeared to be examining her fingernails with mild interest. To most observers, they seemed woefully unprepared for this environment. The Zephyrian delegation was the first to notice their arrival. These 7-foot-tall reptilian beings were known throughout the galaxy for their military prowess and quick tempers. Council Security Chief Vextar, a particularly imposing Zephyrian with scarred battle armor and plasma cannons mounted on his shoulders, stood from his position near the entrance. Human delegation, his voice boomed through the chamber's translation system. Your security detail must be properly armed before entering these chambers. Council regulations clearly state, with respect, Security Chief, Elena interrupted gently. We've reviewed the regulations. They state that each delegation must provide adequate protection for their representatives. We have done so. Vextar's yellow eyes narrowed as he looked at Marcus and Sarah again. Those are your guards. The best Earth has to offer, Elena confirmed. A rippling sound echoed through the chamber as thousands of representatives turned their attention to this unusual exchange. The Gornathi delegation, massive spider-like beings with natural armor plating, clicked their mandibles in what their species considered laughter. The crystalline ethereals chimed harmonically, their version of amused surprise. High Chancellor Mordak, an ancient being whose species had ruled the council for 8 centuries, raised one of his forearms. His voice carried the weight of millennia. Ambassador Vasquez, surely you understand the gravity of this assembly. Wars have started in these very chambers. Assassination attempts are not uncommon. Your guards appear inadequate. Elena smiled, the expression not reaching her eyes. Appearances can be deceiving, High Chancellor. Perhaps we could demonstrate. The temperature in the room seemed to drop several degrees. Security Chief Vextar stepped forward, his weapons systems automatically charging. Demonstrate? You wish to threaten this assembly? Not at all, Elena replied calmly. I simply suggest that your security team test our preparedness. After all, if my guards truly are inadequate, wouldn't it be better to discover this now rather than during an actual crisis? The challenge hung in the air like a loaded weapon. Throughout the chamber, representatives leaned forward in their seats. The Zephyrians were a proud warrior race, and their security chief had never backed down from any challenge in his 300-year career. Vextar's armor began to hum with energy. Very well, human. But when your guards fail, your species will be denied council membership for a century. Elena looked back at Marcus and Sarah. Both had remained perfectly still during the entire exchange. But now Marcus stepped forward slightly. Just to be clear, Marcus said, his voice carrying clearly through the chamber despite its conversational tone. Are you challenging us to a demonstration of protective capabilities? I am challenging you to prove you can protect your ambassador, Vextar replied, his weapons now fully charged. My team consists of 12 elite Zephyrian warriors, all armed with military-grade equipment. You have whatever it is you call yourselves. Sarah finally looked up from her fingernails. That sounds fair. Should we begin now? The casualness in her voice sent an unexpected chill through the assembly. Something about the way she spoke suggested this was not bravado but genuine confidence. High Chancellor Mordak had lived long enough to recognize when predators were hiding in plain sight. Perhaps we should reconsider, he began. No, Vextar interrupted. The challenge is accepted. Council chambers, seal the diplomatic section. Massive energy barriers sprang to life, creating an arena roughly 50 meters in diameter around the human delegation. The barriers would contain any violence while allowing the rest of the council to observe safely. Emergency medical teams took positions outside the field. Vextar and his 11 warriors entered the arena, their weapons trained on the humans. Each Zephyrian warrior carried enough firepower to level a small building. Their armor could withstand direct hits from most military weapons, and their natural strength was 3 times that of an average human. Marcus and Sarah stood on either side of Elena, still appearing completely relaxed. They had not moved into any recognizable combat stance, nor had they produced any hidden weapons. Elena herself seemed to be reading something on a small data pad, apparently unconcerned with the armed warriors surrounding them. This is your final opportunity to withdraw, Vextar announced. We will not be held responsible for injuries or death. Marcus glanced at Sarah, who shrugged almost imperceptibly. Elena, Marcus said quietly, you might want to sit down for this. Elena pulled a small portable chair from her diplomatic kit and sat down, still reading her data pad. Let me know when you're finished. The casual dismissal of the threat was so complete that even some of the council representatives began to feel uneasy. Either the humans were completely insane, or they knew something the rest of the galaxy didn't. Vextar raised his primary weapon. Begin. What happened next would be discussed in council archives for generations to come. Marcus simply walked forward. Not ran, not charged, not leaped. He walked at a normal pace directly toward the nearest Zephyrian warrior, his hands still clasped behind his back. The warrior, trained from birth for combat, fired his plasma rifle at point-blank range. The plasma bolt never reached its target. Instead, Marcus had somehow moved exactly far enough to the left that the energy beam passed harmlessly by his shoulder. Without breaking stride, he continued forward. The warrior fired again, then, again, each shot missing by increasingly impossible margins. Marcus wasn't dodging frantically. He was simply not there when the shots arrived. Meanwhile, Sarah had begun what looked like a leisurely stroll around the perimeter of the arena. As Zephyrian warriors turned to engage her, their weapons malfunctioned in increasingly creative ways. Plasma rifles overheated and shut down. Targeting systems displayed error messages. Energy packs mysteriously drained to 0 charge. But it was what Marcus was doing that truly unsettled the observers. He had reached the first warrior and was now standing directly in front of the 7-foot-tall reptilian being. The Zephyrian swung his armored fist downward with enough force to crush a boulder. Marcus caught the fist in his bare hand and held it motionless. The arena fell silent except for the hum of energy barriers. Your strike was well executed, Marcus said conversationally to the warrior, still holding the massive fist effortlessly. But you're telegraphing your movements about half a second too early. Also, your armor has a structural weakness right here. He tapped a specific point on the warrior's chest plate with his free hand. The entire suit of armor simply fell apart, its pieces clattering to the floor like broken pottery. The Zephyrian warrior, now standing in just his undergarments, stared at Marcus in complete bewilderment. What did you? Resonance frequency, Marcus explained helpfully. Everything has one. Your armor was particularly susceptible. He released the warrior's fist and patted him gently on the shoulder. You should probably sit down. Shock can be dangerous. Across the arena, Sarah had approached a group of 4 warriors who were trying desperately to make their weapons function. She examined their equipment with the air of a mechanic diagnosing engine trouble. "Oh, I see the problem," she announced. "Your plasma containment fields are operating on standard galactic frequency 7.2. We emit a small electromagnetic field that interferes with that particular frequency. Purely defensive, of course." "You're jamming our weapons?" one warrior demanded. "Not jamming," Sarah corrected. "More like suggesting they take a little nap. Your armor's power systems run on frequency 7.2 as well, don't they?" As if responding to her question, all 4 suits of armor powered down simultaneously, leaving the warriors standing in darkened shells that no longer responded to their movements. High Chancellor Mordak watched in fascination as the remaining Zephyrian warriors attempted increasingly desperate tactics. Some tried hand-to-hand combat, only to find themselves gently but firmly redirected into padded corners where they could rest safely. Others attempted to overwhelm the humans with coordinated attacks, but Marcus and Sarah seemed to anticipate every movement with supernatural precision. "Are they psychic?" asked the ethereal representative, her crystalline form chiming with curiosity. "No," replied the Gornathi military observer, his 8 eyes tracking the humans' movements. "Look at their pupils, their breathing patterns, their muscle tension. They're reading micro-expressions, calculating trajectories, predicting behavior based on observable data. But the speed of their processing. Impossible," breathed the Quantari delegation. As a species that prided itself on analytical thinking, they recognized pattern analysis when they saw it. But what the humans were doing was beyond even their advanced capabilities. The demonstration ended when the last Zephyrian warrior found himself sitting in a corner, his weapon neatly disassembled into its component parts and arranged in a perfectly organized pattern beside him. Marcus and Sarah had somehow managed to neutralize the entire security team without causing a single injury or showing any sign of aggression. Elena looked up from her data pad as the energy barriers deactivated. "Are we ready to proceed with the formal introductions now?" Security Chief Vextar, still trying to process what had just happened, managed to find his voice. What are you?" Marcus straightened his tie, which hadn't been displaced despite the encounter. "We're civil servants, Security Chief. Sarah works in the Department of Applied Physics, and I'm with Strategic Assessment. We both volunteer for diplomatic security in our spare time." Volunteer. The word seemed to stick in Vextar's throat. "Of course," Sarah added cheerfully. "Elena asked for our best people, so we raised our hands. It's actually quite relaxing compared to our regular jobs." "What are your regular jobs?" High Chancellor Mordak asked, though he was beginning to suspect he didn't want to know the answer. "I design containment systems for things that shouldn't exist," Sarah explained. "Quantum anomalies, temporal paradoxes, that sort of thing. Marcus evaluates potential threats to human space." "What kind of threats require evaluation?" asked a council representative whose species was known for their paranoia. Marcus considered the question thoughtfully. "Well, last month I assessed the combat capabilities of a spacefaring collective mind that had absorbed 17 star systems. Turned out they were just lonely and wanted to make friends, so that worked out well. Before that, it was a machine intelligence that had decided to reorganize matter at the galactic level according to what it considered optimal efficiency patterns." "And what did you conclude about that threat?" Mordak asked carefully. "Oh, we negotiated a compromise. They got to reorganize 3-star systems that weren't being used for anything important, and in exchange they helped us solve our energy distribution problems. Quite reasonable, actually, once you got past the initial apocalyptic rhetoric." The chamber had fallen into the kind of silence that occurs when an entire assembly is simultaneously reassessing their fundamental assumptions about reality. "You negotiate with galaxy-ending threats?" Vextar asked weakly. "Well, yes," Elena interjected, finally, putting away her data pad. "It's generally more efficient than fighting them. Plus, most cosmic horrors turn out to be quite reasonable once you sit down and explain things properly." The Gornathi military observer leaned forward in his seat. "Exactly how many of these negotiations has your species conducted?" Elena consulted her data pad briefly. "This year? About 47. Though to be fair, some of those were repeat customers. The Entropy Collective keeps forgetting our agreement and trying to unmake reality again, but they're very apologetic about it." High Chancellor Mordak realized that his species, which had ruled the galaxy for 8 centuries through superior technology and tactical brilliance, had just been made to feel like children playing with toy weapons. Perhaps, he said slowly, we should discuss the terms of humanity's council membership. 3 hours later, the Galactic Council was still reeling from what they had witnessed. Emergency sessions had been called by no fewer than 7 different species, all demanding to know exactly what humanity was and how they had remained hidden from galactic awareness for so long. Elena sat comfortably in the designated human diplomatic area, a space that had been hastily arranged with furniture that could accommodate her species' physiology. Marcus and Sarah flanked her position, though now every council representative was acutely aware that the two unassuming humans represented something far more significant than personal protection. High Chancellor Mordak called the session to order, his ancient voice carrying a tremor that hadn't been present in decades. Before we proceed with membership discussions, the Council requires clarification on several matters. Ambassador Vasquez, your species application for Council membership listed your homeworld as Sol 3, locally designated Earth. Our stellar cartography databases show this system as uninhabited. Elena nodded pleasantly. That's quite intentional, High Chancellor. We found it's generally better if potentially hostile civilizations don't know where we live. How do you hide an entire star system? Demanded General Krixtak of the Hegemony Forces, his insectoid features clicking with agitation. As the military commander responsible for galactic security, the implications of undetectable human settlements made his compound eyes twitch nervously. Oh, we don't hide the system, Sarah clarified helpfully. We hide the fact that we're in it. Anyone can visit Sol. They just won't notice any signs of intelligent life unless we want them to. Impossible, declared Chief Scientist Velgon of the Rationalist Coalition. Our sensor technology can detect the electromagnetic signature of a single communications device from 15 parsecs away. Your sensor technology detects what we allow it to detect, Marcus replied mildly. When the Hegemony Survey fleet passed through our system 14 years ago, they spent 3 days conducting detailed scans of every planet, moon, and asteroid. Their final report listed Earth as marginally habitable, showing signs of primitive carbon-based life forms. No technological civilization detected. General Krixtak's mandibles clicked frantically as he accessed his military databases. Operation Deep Survey, 14 years ago, Earth was classified as a nature preserve candidate. Yes, that was rather flattering, Elena said. We kept copies of the survey report. Your xenobiologists were particularly excited about our dolphins. But our scans would have detected cities, transportation networks, energy signatures, Chief Scientist Velgon protested. We have quantum-entangled sensor arrays that can map planetary civilizations from outside a solar system. You detected exactly what you expected to detect, Sarah explained patiently. Your sensors registered electromagnetic signatures consistent with geological activity, atmospheric weather patterns, and biological processes, which is all technically accurate. How can cities and energy networks be technically accurate as geological activity? Velgon demanded. Well, Sarah said, warming to the subject, if you design your cities to mimic tectonic activity signatures and route your power grids through crystalline formations that resonate at frequencies identical to natural mineral deposits, and synchronize your transportation networks to match atmospheric current patterns, then, from a sensor perspective, you're looking at a perfectly normal planet with some interesting but unremarkable geological features. The council chamber erupted in dozens of languages as representatives tried to process the implications. The ethereal delegation's harmonic chiming became discordant with confusion. The Zephyrian War Council was growling among themselves in their ancient battle tongue. High Chancellor Mordak raised all 4 arms for silence. You're claiming that human civilization has developed technology that can perfectly mimic natural phenomena? Not mimic, Marcus corrected. We've learned to work within natural patterns rather than against them. Why fight the universe when you can convince it to help you? That's not how technology works, sputtered Engineer Prime Kicksalt of the Builder cast, his mechanical augmentations whirring with agitation. Civilization requires imposing order on chaos, creating artificial structures that serve intelligent purposes. Does it? Elena asked gently. Or does it require understanding order so completely that your artificial structures become indistinguishable from natural ones? Before anyone could respond, an urgent alarm began sounding throughout the chamber. Emergency lights bathed the crystalline walls in warning red, and automated systems began announcing a priority alert. Council security to High Chancellor, came Vextar's voice over the communication system, still carrying traces of his earlier bewilderment. We have an unscheduled arrival demanding immediate audience with the Assembly. The vessel's configuration doesn't match any known species in our databases. High Chancellor Mordak's expression darkened. Impossible. This facility's location is protected by quantum encryption. No one can arrive here without proper authorization codes. Sir, Vextar continued, his voice now edged with something approaching panic. The vessel appears to be organic. It's shaped like a massive flower, approximately 2 kilometers across, and it's singing. Singing? Several council representatives spoke the word simultaneously. Yes, sir. Broadcasting on all frequencies simultaneously. The message is being translated as, please excuse the interruption, but we need to speak with the nice humans about the star they broke last Tuesday. Every eye in the chamber turned to Elena, who was checking her data pad again with an expression of mild concern. Oh dear, she murmured. Marcus, what day is today? Friday, Elena. And last Tuesday would have been the 7th, the day of the Rigel incident. Elena sighed and stood up, smoothing her diplomatic robes. High Chancellor, I'm afraid we have visitors. Would it be possible to allow them to dock? They've traveled quite a long way, and they're probably concerned. They broke a star? High Chancellor Mordak's voice had risen to a pitch that is species normally reserved for existential terror. Technically, we fixed it, Sarah interjected. It was already broken when we got there. A quantum instability in the fusion matrix was causing temporal echoes. We just stabilized the timeline a bit. Who? General Krixtak demanded, his weapon systems automatically activating despite his earlier demonstration of their ineffectiveness. Are they? Elena consulted her data pad once more. According to the arrival signature, that would be the Gardeners. They're a collective consciousness that tends to stellar nurseries in this galactic region. Lovely beings, actually, but they do worry when someone performs major stellar engineering without filling out the proper paperwork. Stellar engineering? Chief Scientist Velgon had gone completely pale, which for his species involved his skin shifting to a translucent blue. You performed engineering operations on a star? Just a minor adjustment, Marcus said reassuringly. Rigel was experiencing chronic fusion instability due to some temporal interference from a failed time travel experiment. The star was going to go supernova sometime next Thursday, so we implemented a quantum correction protocol. Next Thursday? The words came out as a whisper from dozens of representatives. Well, next Thursday in the local time stream, Sarah clarified. Due to the temporal interference, next Thursday was actually happening last Tuesday, which created a causality loop that was stressing the star's quantum matrix. We simply restored normal temporal flow and reinforced the fusion containment field. High Chancellor Mordak realized that his hands were shaking. A supernova in the Rigel system would have destroyed 17 inhabited worlds. 18, actually, Elena corrected gently. But, yes, that's why we intervened. The Gardeners asked us to help, and it seemed like the neighborly thing to do. The chamber's communication system crackled to life again. High Chancellor, the Gardeners are requesting permission to extend a communication tendril into the chamber. They say they need to discuss proper stellar maintenance protocols with the human delegation. Permission granted, Mordak said faintly. At this point, he was beyond surprise. A section of the chamber's outer wall simply melted away, replaced by what appeared to be a tunnel of living crystal and flowing water. Through this passage came something that defied easy description, a construct of light and organic matter that flowed like liquid but maintained a coherent form. It resembled a cross between a flower and a jellyfish, if both had been made of starlight and given the ability to speak. Greetings, Council of Young Races, the gardener said, its voice like wind chimes in a gentle breeze. We apologize for the intrusion, but we must speak with the humans about stellar maintenance procedures. Elena stood and bowed formally. Honored gardener, please forgive our oversight. We should have submitted a request for stellar modification form before implementing the Rigel corrections. Indeed, Ambassador Elena, the gardener replied, its form shifting through colors that didn't quite exist in normal space. While we appreciate your assistance in preventing the supernova, proper paperwork ensures that our stellar maintenance schedules remain coordinated. The exchange was surreal enough that most of the council representatives were questioning their grasp on reality. These beings were discussing the prevention of a supernova as if it were routine maintenance, complete with bureaucratic procedures. Wait, interrupted the ethereal representative, her crystalline form chiming with confusion. You're saying that humans regularly perform stellar engineering? Oh no, the gardener replied, turning its attention to the council. Humans rarely work on stars directly. They prefer to solve problems at the quantum level, where the solutions are more elegant. The Rigel situation only required stellar intervention because the temporal interference had created macro-scale instabilities. Quantum-level solutions. Chief Scientist Velgon's voice had become barely audible. Yes, quite fascinating, the gardener continued, apparently warming to the subject. Most species attempt to fix problems at the observable level, which requires enormous amounts of energy and often creates additional complications. Humans tend to identify the underlying quantum mechanical causes and adjust those instead. But that would require understanding quantum mechanics at a level that Velgon trailed off, his mind refusing to complete the thought. At a level that allows manipulation of fundamental forces, the gardener confirmed. It's quite efficient, actually. Why destroy a malfunctioning star when you can simply convince its quantum matrix to remember how to function properly? Marcus stepped forward slightly. Honored Gardener, we've prepared the completed paperwork for the Rigel intervention, including the temporal causality impact assessments and the stellar stability projections. We've also included a small gift as an apology for the procedural oversight. The gardener's form brightened considerably. How thoughtful. What manner of gift? We've arranged for the Vega system to develop a particularly beautiful ring of crystalline asteroids over the next few thousand years, Sarah explained. The mineral composition should create some lovely color displays when they catch the starlight. Ooh, decorative astronomy. The gardener's delight was palpable. We do so enjoy when species create beautiful things on a stellar scale. Thank you, humans. Your paperwork is accepted, and we look forward to future collaborations. As the gardener began to withdraw through its crystal tunnel, it paused and addressed the council once more. Council of Young Races, you are most fortunate to have humans seeking membership. They are among the few species we've encountered who understand that the universe is not something to be conquered, but something to be participated in. Treat them well. The tunnel sealed itself, leaving the chamber wall intact as if it had never been disturbed. In the silence that followed, High Chancellor Mordak looked around at his fellow representatives. Every one of them appeared to be experiencing some form of existential crisis. Ambassador Vasquez, he said slowly, perhaps you could explain exactly what humanity's role in galactic affairs has been up until now. Elena resumed her seat and consulted her data pad once more. Certainly, High Chancellor. We've been what you might call consultants. Consultants, High Chancellor Mordak repeated the word as if tasting something unfamiliar. What sort of consultation has humanity been providing to the galaxy? Elena activated a holographic display above her data pad. Perhaps it would be easier to show you. Computer, please display the galactic intervention timeline for the past 50 standard years. The air above the human delegation shimmered, then resolved into a three-dimensional map of local galactic space. Thousands of star systems were represented as points of light, with various symbols indicating different types of activity. What immediately caught everyone's attention were the subtle markers scattered throughout the display, small, unobtrusive icons that appeared near systems where major disasters should have occurred. Each of these markers represents what we call a course correction event, Elena explained. Situations where the natural development of galactic civilization was threatened by various factors. General Krixtak leaned forward, his compound eyes focusing on the display. There are hundreds of them. 417, to be precise, Sarah confirmed. Though that only includes the major interventions. We don't track the minor adjustments. Minor adjustments? The question came from multiple representatives simultaneously. Marcus gestured to a cluster of markers near the galactic core. Trade route optimizations, asteroid deflections, communications protocol improvements, that sort of thing. Nothing that requires formal paperwork. High Chancellor Mordak selected one of the markers with his finger, causing it to expand and display detailed information. The Thanatory Plague. We lost 12 billion souls to that disease before our scientists developed a cure. Actually, Elena said gently, you lost 12 billion souls before our scientists suggested a cure to your scientists in a way that let them think they discovered it themselves. What do you mean? Demanded Chief Medical Officer Zalfine of the Thanatory, her tentacles writhing with agitation. Sarah stood and approached the display. The Thanatory Plague was caused by quantum-level mutations in standard cellular repair mechanisms. Your medical research was focused on combating the disease at the molecular level, which would have eventually worked, but not for another 40 years. We simply left some research notes where your team would find them, suggesting they investigate quantum cellular interactions. Dr. Velshan found those notes in his own handwriting, Zalfine protested. He said he'd had a breakthrough during meditation. He did have a breakthrough, Marcus assured her. We just encouraged his subconscious to make the right connections. The discovery was entirely his own mental process. Chief Scientist Velgon, who had been studying the display with growing horror, selected another marker. The Void Cult Incident. Our reports indicate that the cult's reality-destroying ritual simply failed due to a mathematical error in their calculations. That's technically correct, Elena nodded. Though the mathematical error was introduced when one of our agents replaced a few key symbols in their ritual texts with ones that looked identical, but had completely different quantum significance. You infiltrated the Void Cult. Oh no, nothing so dramatic. We simply convinced a particularly pedantic scribe that the original symbols didn't have sufficient aesthetic balance, and suggested he use more visually pleasing alternatives. He spent 3 months redesigning the entire ritual text for purely artistic reasons. Representative Thexvar of the Hegemony Outer Worlds selected a marker near his home system. The crystalline entity that was consuming our asteroid mining operations, it just vanished one day. It didn't vanish, Sarah explained. We introduced it to a nice, empty nebula about 40 parsecs spinward, where it could consume all the free-floating matter it wanted without bothering anyone. Turns out it was just hungry and didn't realize it was eating anyone's lunch. You negotiated with a space-dwelling crystal entity? They're quite reasonable once you learn to communicate in harmonic resonance patterns, Marcus added. Most cosmic entities are actually rather polite. They just have trouble expressing themselves in ways that carbon-based life can understand. High Chancellor Mordak was examining the display with the expression of someone discovering that their entire worldview had been constructed on quicksand. The recursive war between the Mechanist Coalition and the Organic Alliance. It ended when both sides simultaneously discovered peace treaties in their own archives, treaties they were certain they'd never signed. Those were fun, Elena smiled. Both sides were fighting because they were convinced the other had violated historical agreements. We simply created the agreements retroactively and inserted them into the historical record in a way that satisfied everyone's honor and legal requirements. Created them retroactively? Velgon's voice had risen to a squeak. Temporal filing. Sarah explained as if it were obvious. We drafted the treaties in the present, then used a localized causality loop to ensure they had always existed. Both sides could honestly claim they were honoring ancient agreements because, from their temporal perspective, the agreements were ancient. That's impossible, declared the ethereal representative. Temporal manipulation on that scale would require technology beyond anything the galaxy has ever seen. Oh, we didn't manipulate time, Marcus corrected. We just asked it nicely to make a small exception. Time is surprisingly cooperative if you approach it properly. The chamber fell into stunned silence as the implications began to sink in. Gradually, more representatives began selecting markers from the display, each revelation more staggering than the last. The quantum plague that had threatened to unmake reality itself had been cured when human medical tourists happened to visit the affected systems with experimental treatments that worked perfectly. The dark matter storm that should have destroyed the galactic trade routes had mysteriously dissipated after unusual solar wind patterns created just the right electromagnetic interference. The hive mind that had been absorbing entire star systems had suddenly developed an interest in creating beautiful art installations in uninhabited regions of space. Every single galactic crisis for the past 50 years, High Chancellor Mordak said slowly, was resolved through human intervention. Not every single crisis, Elena corrected. We have a strict non-interference policy regarding natural evolutionary developments and species internal conflicts that don't threaten galactic stability. What constitutes a threat to galactic stability? Asked General Krixtak. Sarah consulted her own datapad. Generally, anything that might result in the extinction of more than 3 species, the destruction of more than 5 star systems, or the unraveling of local spacetime. We also intervene if someone accidentally creates a paradox that might affect causality on a multi-system scale. Accidentally creates a paradox? You'd be surprised how often that happens, Marcus said. Last month alone, we had to fix 14 temporal inconsistencies, 3 reality inversions, and one particularly troublesome case where someone's time travel experiment had created a universe where mathematics didn't work properly. Chief Scientist Velgon was now staring at the humans with the expression of someone who had just discovered that everything he thought he knew about physics was wrong. How do you fix a universe where mathematics doesn't work? Very carefully, Sarah replied, and with a lot of patience. Numbers can be quite stubborn when they're convinced they're supposed to behave differently. Representative Quildar of the Trading Federation selected a marker near her home system. The commodity market crash that should have destroyed our economy. It was prevented when unknown investors began buying futures contracts that stabilized prices across 17 sectors. We noticed your economic models were predicting a cascade failure, Elena nodded. Since stable trade networks benefit everyone, we made some strategic investments. As a side benefit, the returns funded our research into improved stellar engineering techniques. You used economic manipulation to fund stellar engineering? General Krixtak was beginning to understand that humans operated on a scale he had never imagined. We prefer to think of it as sustainable resource management, Elena replied. Why drain planetary treasuries for cosmic research when you can simply optimize trade efficiency and use the resulting prosperity to fund beneficial projects? The Gornathi military observer had been silent throughout most of these revelations, but now he leaned forward with all 8 of his eyes focused intently on the human delegation. Ambassador Vasquez, my species has survived for 2 million years by being very good at recognizing potential threats. What you're describing suggests capabilities that could remake the galaxy at will. Why reveal this to us now? Elena's expression became more serious. Because the galaxy is about to face a crisis that requires formal cooperation rather than subtle guidance. The temperature in the chamber seemed to drop several degrees. High Chancellor Mordak's ancient instincts, honed by 8 centuries of political survival, began screaming warnings. What kind of crisis? He asked. Elena gestured, and her display shifted to show a region of space beyond the galactic rim. Our long-range sensors have detected an anomaly approaching from intergalactic space. Initial analysis suggests it's approximately the size of a solar system and appears to be artificial. Another species? Asked the ethereal representative. Unknown, Marcus replied. What concerns us is that it's leaving a trail of altered spacetime in its wake. Not destroyed, not damaged, altered. As if someone is rewriting the fundamental laws of physics as they travel. The energy requirements for that. Chief Scientist Velgon began, then stopped as his mind simply refused to process the implications. Whatever it is, Sarah continued, it's operating on a scale that makes our stellar engineering look like children playing with building blocks. And it's heading directly toward the galactic core. How long do we have? High Chancellor Mordak asked, though he was beginning to suspect he didn't want to know the answer. Elena consulted her data pad one final time. At its current speed, accounting for the space-time distortions it's creating, approximately 18 months. And this is why you've decided to reveal yourselves, the Gornathi observer concluded. This is why we need the galaxy to start thinking as a unified civilization rather than a collection of competing species, Elena confirmed. Whatever's coming, it's going to require the combined knowledge, resources, and perspectives of every sentient race in the galaxy, including species that until today you've been protecting without their knowledge, Mordak observed. Especially those species, Marcus agreed. You've all developed unique approaches to understanding reality. We're very good at working within natural systems. But this appears to be something from outside our reality entirely. The chamber erupted in dozens of conversations as representatives began processing the magnitude of what they'd been told. The revelation that humanity had been secretly protecting galactic civilization was staggering enough. The news that something was approaching that even humans considered a serious threat was terrifying. High Chancellor Mordak raised all four arms for silence. Ambassador Vasquez, what exactly are you proposing? Elena stood, her diplomatic bearing now carrying an authority that had been previously hidden behind gentle courtesy. We're proposing that the Galactic Council become exactly what it was always meant to be, a genuine alliance of species working together for mutual survival and prosperity. We're proposing to share our technology, our knowledge, and our resources in exchange for the galaxy's commitment to face this threat as one people. And if we refuse? General Krixtak asked. Elena's smile was gentle, but her words carried the weight of absolute certainty. Then, we'll do what we've always done. We'll protect the galaxy as best we can, and hope it's enough. The silence that followed was the silence of a galaxy coming to terms with the fact that its secret guardians were asking for help. 6 months after the revelation, the Galactic Council had been transformed into something unprecedented in galactic history, an organization that actually functioned. The change had been both dramatic and surprisingly smooth, largely because humans had been preparing for this transition for decades. Elena stood in the newly constructed Operations Center, a facility that had been built using a fusion of technologies from 47 different species. The result was architecturally impossible by any single species standards, but somehow perfectly functional. Crystalline walls grown by the ethereals provided structural support for organic computing networks developed by the Hive Collective, while Mechanist Coalition fabricators worked alongside Zephyrian warriors to implement human-designed defense systems. Status report. Elena requested as she approached the central command platform. Commander Vextar, who had requested transfer to the Joint Operations Division after his encounter with Marcus and Sarah, consulted a display that would have been incomprehensible 6 months ago. All 37 species have completed integration of the defensive upgrades. The early warning network is operational across 12,000 star systems, and the joint research facilities are producing results faster than our analysis teams can process them. It had been a remarkable 6 months. Once the galaxy species had accepted that humanity possessed technology beyond their current understanding, the cooperation had been extraordinary. Fear of the approaching anomaly had certainly been a motivating factor, but Elena suspected there was something deeper at work. For the first time in galactic history, every species felt like they were part of something larger than themselves. Any new developments with the anomaly? Elena asked. Sarah looked up from a console that seemed to exist in more dimensions than the surrounding space, still maintaining course and speed toward the galactic core. However, we've managed to improve our analysis of the space-time alterations it's leaving behind. And it's not rewriting the laws of physics, Sarah announced. It's debugging them. The statement caused several technicians from different species to stop their work and stare at her. Debugging, repeated Chief Scientist Velgon, who had become the Joint Science Coordinator despite frequent protests that his understanding of physics was now hopelessly outdated. The alterations to space-time aren't random, Marcus explained, approaching from a bank of monitoring stations. They're systematic corrections to quantum-level inconsistencies in local reality. Whoever or whatever is coming, they're fixing errors in the universe as they travel through it. Elena frowned. What kind of errors? The kind that accumulate naturally over cosmic time scales, Sarah replied. Reality isn't perfectly stable at the quantum level. Over billions of years, small inconsistencies build up. Normally, they're too minor to matter, but they can create weak points where cause and effect don't work properly. Are you saying that reality has bugs? Commander Vextar asked. Think of it more like wear and tear, Marcus suggested. The universe is a very complex system, and complex systems develop problems over time unless they're maintained. Maintained by who? Asked the ethereal representative, her crystalline form chiming with curiosity. That, Elena said grimly, is what concerns us. Dr. Chen Wei, humanity's leading expert on cosmic-scale phenomena, emerged from a consultation with the Gardner Collective. The massive flower-like beings had established a permanent presence at the facility, their unique perspective on stellar mechanics proving invaluable for understanding the approaching entity. The Gardners have shared some interesting historical data, Dr. Chen announced. They've been maintaining stellar nurseries in this galactic region for approximately 4 million years. According to their records, entities matching this description have visited twice before in that time period. And what happened during those visits? High Chancellor Mordak asked. The ancient being had taken personal residence at the facility, claiming that if the galaxy was going to end, he wanted to see it happen firsthand. Nothing dramatic, Dr. Chen replied. Both times, the entities spent several thousand years traveling through the galaxy, made systematic corrections to various cosmic infrastructure problems, then departed for parts unknown. Cosmic infrastructure problems? Velgon was beginning to sound like someone whose worldview had been disassembled and rebuilt so many times that he was losing track of which version of reality he was currently living in. Black holes that were developing event horizon instabilities, neutron stars with magnetic field fluctuations that were interfering with subspace communications, stellar nurseries that were producing stars with improper heavy element ratios, Dr. Chen listed. Basically, maintenance on the universe's large-scale systems. Commander Vextar's tactical training was struggling to process this information. Are you saying that someone travels around the galaxy performing cosmic maintenance? It's more common than you might think, one of the gardeners interjected, its voice like crystalline wind chimes. The universe is vast, but it's not self-maintaining beyond a certain scale. Most galaxies have caretaker species or entities that handle the large-scale problems. Most galaxies? Elena repeated. Meaning this galaxy doesn't. This galaxy has interesting circumstances, the gardener replied diplomatically. The local caretaker species appears to have developed in an unusual direction. Every human in the facility suddenly became very interested in their instruments. Elena recognized the signs of her people trying to look inconspicuous, which was usually a bad sign. What unusual direction? She asked carefully. Well, the gardener continued, apparently oblivious to the sudden tension among the human staff. Most caretaker species focus on large-scale infrastructure maintenance. They're quite good at it, but they tend to be rather impersonal in their approach. And this galaxy's caretaker species developed an unusual interest in the welfare of individual organic civilizations. Rather than maintaining cosmic infrastructure, they've spent their time preventing smaller species from accidentally destroying themselves. Quite remarkable, really, though it has led to some deferred maintenance issues. The silence that followed was broken by High Chancellor Mordak's ancient voice. Humans are the caretaker species for this galaxy. It wasn't a question. Elena sighed. We prefer the term emergency management specialists. How long? Commander Vextar demanded. How long what? Marcus asked, though his tone suggested he knew exactly what the question meant. How long have humans been the designated caretakers for this galaxy? Sarah consulted her data pad, though Elena suspected she already knew the answer. According to the Cosmic Administration records, humanity was assigned responsibility for local galactic cluster designation MGW 2847, Alpha approximately 73,000 years ago. The facility fell silent except for the humming of various technological systems and the gentle chiming of the Gardner Collective. 73,000 years, High Chancellor Mordak repeated. In our defense, Elena said quickly, we were supposed to be focusing on infrastructure maintenance. We just got distracted by all the interesting civilizations that kept developing. Distracted, Velgon said flatly. You have to understand, Marcus added. When you're responsible for maintaining cosmic infrastructure, you spend most of your time dealing with things like stellar formation rates and gravitational field calibrations. Then, you notice that there are all these fascinating species developing art and music and philosophy, and they keep having these small problems that would be trivial to fix, and you decided to become cosmic social workers instead of cosmic engineers, the Gornathi military observer concluded. Something like that, Elena admitted. Dr. Chen cleared his throat. This does explain why the cosmic maintenance backlog has gotten so extensive. How extensive? Elena asked with the tone of someone who already suspected the answer would be bad news. Well, according to the Gardner records and our recent surveys, we're about 40,000 years behind schedule on routine galactic maintenance. And the entities that are approaching are probably the cosmic equivalent of senior management coming to find out why local galactic cluster MGW 2847 Alpha has been filing maintenance delayed due to local circumstances reports for the past 40 millennia. Commander Vextar was experiencing the unique sensation of having his entire understanding of military hierarchy expanded to a cosmic scale. Are you saying that humanity is about to be audited by cosmic management? That's one way to put it, Sarah confirmed. What's another way to put it? High Chancellor Mordak asked. We're about to meet the entities who assigned us to this position in the first place, Elena replied. And we're going to have to explain why we've spent 70,000 years playing civilization instead of doing the job we were hired for. The ethereal representative's harmonic chiming had taken on distinctly nervous overtones. What happens when cosmic management discovers that their employees have been freelancing? Unknown, Marcus admitted. This is the first time in recorded galactic history that a caretaker species has gone this far off mission. Are there precedents for cosmic disciplinary action? Belgon asked. There are precedents for cosmic management reassigning galaxies to more reliable caretaker species, Dr. Chun said quietly. What does that mean for the current galactic civilizations? High Chancellor Mordak's question was asked with the careful precision of someone who suspected they wouldn't like the answer. Unknown, Elena replied. But probably nothing good. Most cosmic caretaker species consider individual organic civilizations to be transitory phenomena that don't require special consideration, meaning they might view the entire galaxy as a mechanical system that needs proper maintenance without worrying about the biological components, Sarah added. Commander Vextar's tactical mind was already processing the implications. How do we fight cosmic management? We don't, Elena said firmly. These are the entities who assign responsibility for entire galactic clusters. Fighting them would be like a bacteria declaring war on a starship engineer. Then, what do we do? Elena looked around at the representatives of 47 different species, all of whom had spent 6 months learning to work together in ways that had never been achieved in galactic history. The diversity was staggering. Crystalline energy beings working alongside hive-minded insectoids, mechanical intelligences collaborating with organic empaths, warrior species, and philosopher species united by common purpose. We do what humans have always done best, she said finally. We improvise. Improvise? High Chancellor Mordak asked. We convince cosmic management that our approach to galactic caretaking, while unconventional, has produced results worth preserving. And if they disagree? Elena's smile carried the same gentle confidence that had characterized humanity's approach to every cosmic crisis for 70,000 years. Then, we negotiate. 12 months later, the galaxy held its collective breath as the cosmic management entity decelerated from interstellar velocity and entered local space. The thing that emerged from hyperspace defied description in any single species' conceptual framework. To the humans, it appeared as a vast geometric structure of crystallized mathematics, each facet representing different universal constants arranged in perfect harmony. To the ethereals, it manifested as pure harmonic resonance given physical form. The Zephyrians saw it as the ultimate expression of order and discipline, while the organic hive collective perceived it as the cosmic mind that dreamed all reality into existence. What every species agreed on was that it was impossibly large, incomprehensibly ancient, and absolutely beyond any technology they had previously imagined. Elena stood in the command center of the Joint Galactic Facility, watching the readings pour in from their monitoring systems. Beside her, representatives of all major galactic civilizations waited for humanity's next move with the mixture of terror and hope that had become their default emotional state over the past year. Energy readings are, well, they're breaking our instruments, reported Dr. Chun, who had somehow become the galaxy's leading expert on cosmic entities despite having been a stellar physicist just 18 months ago. Whatever's powering that thing operates on principles that make our understanding of physics look like cave paintings. Communication attempts? Elena asked. It's responded to our standard first contact protocols, Commander Vextar replied. His voice carried the strain of someone who had gone from believing he was part of the galaxy's most advanced military to discovering he was essentially cosmic security guard. The entity has requested formal audience with the, and I quote, local caretaker administration for performance review purposes. That's us, Sarah said helpfully from her position at the quantum monitoring station. Yes, thank you, Sarah. I had figured that out, Elena replied dryly. High Chancellor Mordak approached the group, his ancient dignity intact despite the cosmic circumstances. Ambassador, the Joint Council has authorized you to act as primary representative for all galactic civilizations. What's our strategy? Elena consulted her data pad, though at this point the gesture was more for her own comfort than any practical purpose. We're going to do exactly what humans have always done. Walk in unarmed and try to negotiate a reasonable solution. The same strategy that got us into this situation in the first place, the Gurnathi observer noted, his 8 eyes tracking the cosmic entity's approach vectors. It's worked for 70,000 years, Marcus pointed out. Besides, do any of you have a better idea? The silence that greeted this question was answer enough. Incoming communication, announced the Joint Communications team. The entity is requesting immediate transport for the caretaker representatives to attend formal review procedures. Transport to where? Elena asked. To itself. Apparently cosmic management doesn't make house calls. Elena looked around at her team. Marcus and Sarah stood ready, their casual competence somehow reassuring even in the face of cosmic bureaucracy. Dr. Chun was frantically updating his research notes, convinced that this might be humanity's last chance to learn something useful. Commander Vextar was running final security checks despite the obvious futility of protecting anyone from an entity that could rearrange space-time. Any final preparations? Elena asked. Sarah held up a small container. I brought snacks. Snacks, Elena repeated. Negotiations always go better when people aren't hungry, Sarah explained reasonably. And we have no idea how long this is going to take. You brought snacks to our performance review with cosmic management. Earth's finest chocolate and coffee. If we're going to be reassigned or discontinued, we might as well go out representing humanity's best achievements. Despite everything, Elena found herself smiling. Of course you did. Very well, people. Let's go find out if the galaxy gets to keep existing. The transport process was unlike anything in any species' experience. One moment they were standing in the command center, the next they were elsewhere. Not moved, not teleported, simply translated from one location to another by mechanisms that bypassed the normal requirements of space and time. They found themselves in a space that existed in more dimensions than their minds could properly process. The geometry was simultaneously vast and intimate, infinite, and perfectly proportioned to their presence. At the center of this impossible space sat an entity that appeared different to each observer, but conveyed the same sense of ancient, patient authority. Local Caretaker Administration for Galactic Cluster MGW. 2847, Alpha. The entity spoke without sound, its communication bypassing language entirely, and speaking directly to their understanding. You are significantly overdue for your scheduled performance review. Elena stepped forward, falling back on 70,000 years of diplomatic training. Honored Cosmic Administrator, we acknowledge the scheduling delay and apologize for any inconvenience. We've prepared a comprehensive report on our stewardship activities during the review period. This should be interesting, the entity replied, and somehow Elena was certain it was amused. According to our records, you were assigned to maintain cosmic infrastructure for this galactic cluster. Your assignment included stellar formation optimization, gravitational field calibration, space-time stability maintenance, and quantum coherence monitoring. Yes, Honored Administrator. Our preliminary surveys indicate that infrastructure maintenance in this cluster is approximately 40,000 years behind schedule. Elena took a deep breath. That is correct, Honored Administrator. However, the entity continued. Our surveys also indicate that this galactic cluster has achieved the highest level of interspecies cooperation, the lowest rate of self-destructive warfare, and the most stable civilization development patterns of any cluster in this cosmic region. Elena blinked. I'm sorry, could you repeat that? Your assigned cluster has become a model of successful multi-species collaboration. Other cosmic administrators have been requesting detailed reports on your methodologies. Dr. Chin stepped forward tentatively. Are you saying that other galactic clusters don't have this level of cooperation? Most galactic clusters contain civilizations that destroy themselves within 50,000 years of achieving interstellar capability, the entity explained. Self-annihilation rates typically exceed 90%. War, resource depletion, technological accidents, and simple species incompatibility eliminate the vast majority of organic civilizations before they can achieve stable galactic society. And our cluster? Elena asked. 0 species extinctions due to self-destructive behavior. 0 interstellar wars resulting in planetary destruction. Successful integration of 47 different biological and technological paradigms into a unified civilization. This level of success is unprecedented. Commander Vextar found his voice. You're saying we're doing well? You are performing magnificently, the entity confirmed. Though not at the job you were assigned to do. The cosmic space around them shimmered, and suddenly, they could see other galactic clusters. In most, the displays showed empty systems, dead worlds, and the remnants of civilizations that had burned themselves out in cosmic violence. A few showed active civilizations, but even those were clearly struggling with internal conflicts and resource competition. This is what normal galactic development looks like, the entity explained. Most caretaker species focus on maintaining cosmic infrastructure because organic civilizations rarely survive long enough to matter. Your cluster is the first in recorded cosmic history where the organic civilizations have achieved stable galactic society. Sarah raised her hand tentatively. Does that mean we're not in trouble? You are, the entity said, and Elena's heart sank. But not for the reasons you expected. The space around them shifted again, showing what appeared to be a cosmic organizational chart of staggering complexity. The success of your unorthodox approach has attracted attention from the Cosmic Development Council. They want to implement your methodologies in other galactic clusters. However, infrastructure maintenance remains a critical requirement that cannot be indefinitely postponed. Elena began to see where this was heading. You're offering us a choice. We are offering you a promotion, the entity corrected. Formal recognition as Galactic Civilization Development Specialists, with expanded authority to implement your approaches across multiple cosmic regions. However, this would require transferring infrastructure maintenance responsibilities to standard cosmic engineering entities. What would happen to our galaxy during the infrastructure maintenance? Marcus asked. Standard protocols require temporary suspension of all biological activity during major cosmic engineering operations. Temporary suspension, High Chancellor Mordak repeated, meaning all organic life in the cluster would be placed in quantum stasis for approximately 10,000 years while infrastructure corrections are implemented. Elena felt her stomach drop. 10,000 years. Every civilization in the galaxy frozen while cosmic engineers tore apart and rebuilt the underlying structure of space-time. Is there an alternative? She asked. There is always an alternative, the entity replied, though it would be unprecedented. What kind of alternative? Train your galactic civilizations to perform cosmic infrastructure maintenance themselves. Create the first truly integrated organic cosmic civilization capable of maintaining its own universal systems. Elena looked around at her team. Dr. Chun was frantically calculating the implications. Marcus and Sarah were exchanging glances that suggested they were already 10 steps ahead of the conversation. Commander Vextar was trying to process military logistics on a cosmic scale. What would that require? Elena asked. Sharing cosmic administration technology with organic civilizations. Teaching quantum engineering principles to species that until recently couldn't conceive of stellar modification. Creating the first galactic civilization capable of maintaining its own corner of the universe. The first galactic civilization, Elena repeated. Not the first in this region, but the first anywhere. Correct. Most civilizations destroy themselves before achieving galactic unity. Your cluster would be the first to successfully transition from organic civilization to cosmic caretakers. Sarah opened her container and offered the cosmic entity some chocolate. Want to try Earth coffee while you think about it? The entity somehow conveyed amused acceptance, and Sarah began preparing coffee with the casual efficiency that had characterized humanity's approach to every cosmic crisis. So let me make sure I understand, Elena said. You're offering us the chance to become the galaxy's permanent cosmic caretakers, with full administrative authority and cosmic technology, in exchange for taking responsibility for maintaining our own infrastructure, and serving as the prototype for cosmic civilization development in other galactic clusters, the entity confirmed. What's the catch? Marcus asked. If you fail, if your civilizations cannot successfully integrate cosmic technology, or if the experiment results in the kind of self-destruction that destroys most organic societies, then this entire galactic cluster will be reset to pre-civilization conditions. Elena felt the weight of 47 species' futures settling on her shoulders. How long do we have to decide? How long do you need? Elena looked at Marcus and Sarah, both of whom nodded almost imperceptibly. She thought about the past 18 months, watching dozens of different species learn to work together in ways that had never been attempted. She thought about the gardener's patient cultivation of stellar nurseries, the ethereal's harmonic approach to technology, the Zephyrian's honorable warrior culture, the Gornathi's analytical precision. She thought about humanity's 70,000 years of improvising solutions to impossible problems. We accept, she said. The cosmic entity's amusement was palpable. Without consultation, without debate, without detailed analysis of the risks. Elena smiled. Honored administrator, with respect, we've been making impossible decisions without complete information for 70,000 years. It's what we do. And, Sarah added, offering the entity a cup of perfectly brewed coffee, we've gotten pretty good at it. The cosmic space around them began to shift and change as fundamental forces realigned to accommodate humanity's newest impossible task. Very well, the entity said. Welcome to Cosmic Administration. Your first infrastructure maintenance assignment begins now. Elena laughed, the sound somehow carrying perfectly in the impossible space. Marcus, Sarah, I think we're going to need bigger data pads. And more coffee, Sarah added pragmatically. Definitely more coffee, Elena agreed. And somewhere in the space between one impossible moment and the next, the galaxy became humanity's responsibility in ways they had never imagined, guided by the same principles that had brought them this far. Walk in unarmed, negotiate in good faith, and always, always improvise. After all, it had worked for 70,000 years. Why stop now? In the command center of the Joint Galactic Facility, the monitoring systems registered the cosmic entity's departure, leaving behind only slightly altered spacetime and a data package containing the complete technical specifications for cosmic infrastructure maintenance. High Chancellor Mordak looked around at the assembled representatives of 47 different species, all of whom were now cosmic engineering apprentices. Well, he said finally, this should be interesting. And, in a feat of diplomatic understatement that would be remembered for millennia, it was.